In the days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there has been an incredible uprising of people who want to take his place and want to be able to stand in the gap where he stood and be able to reason with people and argue with people in love and with truth and from a place of authority the way that Charlie did. And one of the things that has stuck out to me so much is that Charlie was self-taught. He was an autodidact. That means that he was someone who went and learned by himself and for himself. He did not go to college. He didn't have a degree and all this stuff. He just loved learning, and he read like a monster, and he actually thought through what he read, and he let what he read change him, inform him, and work through his ideas and break down his old thoughts and old habits and form new ones that were better and more aligned with reality. And so one of the things that you can do if you want to be someone that God is raising up to help take the place in whatever small sense that you do, whether it's on stages in front of thousands of people like him, or whether it's just one-on-one with friends that you have, one of the things that you have got to do is you have to start reading. And what better place and what better way to honor the man who literally gave his life for these beliefs that he had in God and in family and in our country and all of this. What better way to honor him than start to read the books that he said you should read? So I've been going back through, I had a list of my own of books that Charlie recommended. There's some of them that I've read, some of them I haven't read yet. But today I wanted to go through 6 of them. I have 3 kind of very spiritual books and then 3 books focused kind of more on politics or the country in general, right? And so I want to go through these 6, and then I have a bonus one at the end that I want to throw in for you. So without further ado, let's get started. The number one book that you can read if Charlie's life inspired you in any way at all is the Bible, hands down. It is the most influential thing that he read. It was the foundation of his life. It was the center of everything that made him who he was. And so to start any list with anything other than saying that you should read the Bible would just be completely disingenuous to who he was and to the ideas that made him who he was. So right off the bat, you should read the Bible, but you should not just read any Bible. I would suggest that you pick up this Bible. This is called the Founder's Bible. It's from the Wall Builders Association. And what's incredible about this Bible, one, it's an NASB, which is a really solid translation. It's more on the word for word than the thought for thought thing. So if you're worried about that, this is good for you. And it's a very easy to read but understandable translation. But this one in particular combines the text of the NASB with a history of America, focusing on the Christian influence of everything that went into the founding of America. Charlie said in one of his talks one time that July 4th, 1776 was the most significant day in history since the day that Jesus was crucified. And he said that, and I was like, holy crikeys, bro, that is a big flipping claim. And then the more you read about and the more you understand the founding of our country and what was so special about the founding of our country and how it had everything to do with the Christian beliefs and Christian understanding and the codifying that into law, the more you just come to realize you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, totally. I think he might be right. I literally think that might be the most important day in history since the day that Jesus was crucified. So highly, highly, highly recommend this Bible. But honestly, any Bible that you read, start with any of them. Doesn't really matter. Pick a solid translation that everybody knows, an ESV, NASB, NIV, any of those, and just read all the way through the Bible. That has to be the core. That has to be the foundation of everything. If you really want to start to develop a solid and actual defensible worldview of the Christian faith and the Christian worldview and the way that we believe that the world works and operates. Next up, one of the books that Charlie mentioned was I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Dr. Frank Turek was a good friend of his. And while I really do like that book, I wanted to throw one in there that for whatever reason kind of just appealed to me more. I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist has a whole ton of sciencey stuff in it. But this one, The Reason for God by Timothy Keller, this one is much more intellectual and philosophical. And that's kind of the tack of all the arguments that this one takes. I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist has a lot of charts, a lot of graphs, a lot of stuff like that. So if you're more on the sciencey side, definitely grab that one. If you're more on the philosophical reasoning side, definitely grab this. But one of the things that is just massively just destroying Christianity nowadays is that people have bought into the belief that in order to believe the gospel, you have to let go of all reason and all everything. In order to become a Christian, you just have to just dump all your reason and all of your logical thinking. And that is simply just not the case at all. This is something I talk about with a bunch of friends recently, but basically every worldview has to answer three questions, right? Every worldview has to answer creation, the fall, and redemption. Where do we come from? Why are we here? What went wrong with everything? And how do we fix it? And the thing is, the Bible, the answer to the first two questions, where do we come from? And why are we here? And then what went wrong with everything? Those answers are just truth answers. They're just they're historical answers that point to, hey, we could look back at history and we could kind of verify whether this is true or not. The answer that doesn't make sense, the answer that is confusing to people is the gospel message of how do we fix it, right? But how do we fix it is only one of three questions. The first two questions are very, very much reinforced by logic and reason. And the more you dig into them from the answers that the Christian worldview offers, the more you understand, like, holy crap, this really does have the best answers to all of those things. Like, it really does. All the other answers, like, some of them are good in some ways and bad in other ways, but when you actually stack up what aligns the most with reality and with history and everything that we can see, the answers to those two are by far best when they come from the Christian worldview. So this one, The Reason for God, Timothy Keller, absolutely loved that one. Next up will be another one that Charlie recommended in his book, but this is Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton. This is a great book for starting to dig into a really deep theological thinker. Chesterton was unbelievably thoughtful and deep in his thinking, but he has an ability to communicate in a way that anybody can understand it. He is one of just the godfathers of theological communication. I read this book and I thought, oh my gosh, if I could communicate a tenth as well as this guy does, I will be doing all right in life. And so Orthodoxy, just absolutely astoundingly good book, but a great kind of stepping stone into wrestling with deeper theological thoughts and wrestling with how do we hold on to what was in the past, but also try to update our view. But when is updating our view just taking us in territory that we just don't really want to go at all, and we just need to go back to all the fundamental things that have been the fundamental things for forever because they're the fundamental things. So Orthodoxy, G.K. Chesterton, absolutely loved that one. And then moving on from that, when we start to go more into the political side of things, the one that I have read that Charlie recommends that I would say you start with is going to be Plato's The Republic. The thing that really hit me about this book was I thought that this book was going to be super difficult. And even for me, like, I read a lot and I was even a little bit scared of like, yeah, but I'm going to be going back, like, reading Plato. This is going to be super hard. It's not going to be like very enjoyable. It's going to be a slog to get through, whatever. I loved this book. This is the translation by Desmond Lee. It's the Penguin Classics translation, and I absolutely loved it. It was so enthralling. It was so well translated and engaging to where you understand the ideas, but I never felt bored. I never felt like, oh my gosh, like I'm just like, oh, this is so difficult, right? So this is one of those books that this is a foundation of the West, right? This is one of the earliest things that we can trace back to that really started to form all of the understanding of Western culture and how Western culture evolved into what it is. This is a foundational piece to it. Not everything in this is what you would call right, or aligns with a Christian worldview, but it is a fundamental piece of understanding where we came from. And more than that, this is a great place to start because it helps you, it's kind of like the Orthodoxy thing. It helps you engage with a really deep thinker and a really big book, but it doesn't feel that imposing when you're reading it. So you get done just kind of feeling like, dang, yeah, man, like, yeah, what you want to talk about at dinner tonight? I've been reading Plato. What you been doing, And it just really kind of gives you that boost to be like, oh, I can read hard things. I can read difficult things, right? So Plato, The Republic, start with that. Next off, I would say to move to Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This is another one of those ones that it's awesome to have read it because so many people have read it over the course of history, and it gives you this touch point into a book. It's like reading the Bible. It's like you go back and you read these other people throughout all the points in history and you catch where they're referencing this book. Right? And so this is one, again, it's short, it's pretty easy, it's not very hard to understand. It's literally just Marcus Aurelius's journal and his notes to himself, right? Which in and of itself makes it a super interesting book of like, it was never really intended to be published. But super, super good book. And it is as deep as you want to go into it, right? So you can just kind of browse through the whole thing, or you can really dig into each and everything and really start to question and wrestle with it. But the benefit of it is it gives you this touch point of other great thinkers, because all the other great thinkers have also read this book, right? And that's one of the things that you need to do is you need to have these common reference points so that you're on the same page when you're communicating with people and with these big ideas, right? This is one of those crucial books for that. And then another book that Charlie recommends all the time is 1984. I really liked 1984. I did not like Brave New World. Both of those are kind of all, lumped together, generally kind of these classic dystopian novels. But the one that I don't know that he ever mentioned, I haven't seen it on any of his things, but the one that hit me way harder than 1984 or Brave New World was actually Animal Farm by George Orwell. And the thing about Animal Farm is that it's kind of one of these things where people can go super down into all the weeds with 84 and with Animal Farm about like, well, it wasn't really about socialism. It was about this, or it was about that, or it was about this, and you get all super argumentative about it and whatever. But the thing about it, because it is this story about animals, it just bypasses this part of your brain that's like trying to figure out, oh, it's like, could this really happen? Is this really happening? Blah, 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 blah. And you just get the central message of it in a way that just hits different than anything else. It's kind of like why Narnia impacts people so much, right? It's like, it's the gospel story, but because it's these animals and stuff, it just bypasses certain parts of your brain, and your brain doesn't argue with it as much. It just is able to, your soul is able to see the truth of what's being communicated in a way that doesn't really happen in some of these other books. So Animal Farm is one for me where it's super easy. Literally anybody can read this book probably in a day. Like it's 150 pages, right? It's so easy. But when you read it and you see the situations happening, your soul responds to it in a way that your brain just doesn't. Your brain gets bypassed or your brain gets too engaged when you're reading like 1984 or Brave New World or some of those other things. You get so caught up in the details that I feel like you can kind of miss the heart-rending of the story. That's a technical term, right? So Animal Farm, but again, 1984, Brave New World, like all of these are classics for a reason. But if I was going to say to start with one, I would say start with Animal Farm. And then finally, bonus book. I think you should read Charlie's newest book, Right Wing Revolution. This book actually was really surprising to me for some reason. I had watched Charlie for forever at that point. But then for some reason, I thought his book wasn't going to be very good. Like I had really low expectations for his book, even though dumb, right? But this book I absolutely loved. It was his playbook for how do we beat the woke and save the West. And the thing that most stuck out to me in this book was towards the end, there's a part where he says, I know that not every conservative in America is Christian or even religious. You might be non-religious yourself. So am I telling you that if you are serious about pushing back wokeness, not just delaying its victory, but actually defeating it, you should become a Christian? Yes. Yes, I am. And I absolutely loved the way that he talked about this disease and this religion of wokeness and what eventually ended up murdering him, right? Because he called it what it was. He called it this false idol and this false religion and this thing that has replaced a proper worship of God and a proper understanding of being made in God's image, and all of this just culminating in this false religion that people have been swept up in, because people have to have something to worship. People have to have something to bow down to. We have to have something bigger to live for, even if that ends up in us killing somebody else and then killing ourselves, right? We have to have that. It's innate in us, and you cannot get around the innate needs of human nature. And I feel like he just so perfectly describes how all that plays out, but more importantly, how to actually beat it. And I love the way that he talks about in this book, because he's like, dude, it's not everybody else. It's not getting everybody else to do all this stuff. It's starting to change your life. Get your house in order, get yourself in order, then get your house in order, then start to move out to whatever. Stop worrying about all these other people. It's like I said in my last video, we all want to pray and talk about revival, and we want revival so bad. And we forget that like revival starts with you. Like if your soul is not in revival, ain't nobody else going to be. Like you can't pass it on to somebody else. You can't pass on something else that you don't have, right? God can't pour something out through you that he's not poured into you, right? So I love his message of this book is everything about saving this, everything about saving the West, about defeating this wokeness, about all of this. It all comes back to you, the individual, and how you're letting God work in your life. So the number one way that you can do that is start reading deeply, read these books. All of these are listed in the description below. There's links there. They help out the channel if you buy them through that. But whether you get them there or not, go get them, start reading them, and start being Charlie in your own life, and to your own self, and to your own family, and to just the people immediately around you, and start acting in the way that he did, and start developing yourself in the way that he did. And if we do that, the things that he stood for will never die, and his message will only continue to get stronger. And this movement that has awoken in the wake of his assassination will just continue to absolutely take over the entire world with love and grace and truth. And it will be amazing to see. And I am all here for it. So that's all I got for now. See you in the next one.